Haunted house in Clarion. There is a legend about an old house in Clarion. The legend says to go upstairs and pick up one of the old photos on the ground. Then take it home with you and sleep with it. When you wake up, the photo will be gone. And when you go back into the house, the photo will be back on the floor where you found it. And there will be a dark figure in the picture. The history behind this house is that there was a family of 6 living there. The father, mother, twins, an older brother, and the oldest daughter. It all started when the mother had an affair and filed for divorce. One day the mother was about to leave, then the father said, "If you leave, we all leave." The father then lit a match and burnt his arms, then threw the match to the ground. At this time, 3 daughters were there, and the son was gone. The father died, the mother died. The twins were in the 2nd story and ended up jumping out. They died from their injuries. The oldest sister made it out alive, but then she went out back and hanged herself. The son was the only survivor. Here is one experience from a girl named Maggie. Okay, this place is not that far away from my house. This place and my house are about 10 minutes away from Clarion. I've always seen weird movements over there. One day, my friend Elizabeth came to spend the night and had another person come too. His name was Landon. When we went, we lit a couple of matches, and about 5 minutes later, Landon saw a little girl walk by. Later on, he saw another little girl walk by my house. Then I kept seeing really strange movements. Elizabeth came back over a few days later, and we lit matches to see what would happen. And we saw a whole bunch of shadows and orbs. Then we saw a fire in there. Not too long ago, on the night I saw the orbs and shadows. But I also saw flickering lights around my own house. Devil's Chair. This cemetery where the Devil's Chair is located was laid out in 1885 by a county surveyor for William and Margaret Hammond, who created this graveyard as a private burial ground. The city of Guthrie Center purchased the cemetery from the Hammonds after it already had several graves in it. The original name of the cemetery is uncertain, but the official name became Union Cemetery under city ownership. As for the cement chair, which has no inscription and is located between 2 unmarked gravestones, presumably belonging to Miller and Peterson, may very well be a memorial to either one of them. It is located midway on the north side of the main east-west roadway through the cemetery, though local legend claims that this chair belongs to none other than the devil himself, and if one is to sit in this cement chair, the person will experience bad luck, and even death can follow anyone who sits in this chair. The Black Angel. Standing guard at the edge of the Fairview Cemetery in Council Bluffs, Iowa, is a lone sentinel known as the Black Angel. Her face is calm as she looks westward, welcoming visitors. Despite her sweet and serene visage, over the years she had become a topic of local folklore, and to some, a sinister being capable of evil. What we know about the Black Angel begins in 1854 when Ruth Ann Brown and her husband, Greenville Mellon Dodge, moved from Illinois to Iowa. Greenville rose to the rank of general in the 4th Iowa Infantry during the Civil War. He returned home at the end of the war in 1865 and took a job with the Union Pacific Railroad. Ruth was a strong-willed woman, not afraid to speak her mind in an era when it wasn't acceptable for women to do so. The couple had 3 daughters and lived in a home that Greenville built with his own hands. He died in January 1916, and Ruth passed away in September of that same year. Before her death, Ruth Ann had a dream that she was standing on a shoreline when a boat pulled up onto shore. On board the boat was a beautiful woman who Ruth Ann believes was an angel. The angel offered her a drink from a bowl of water that she was holding, but Ruth Ann turned down the drink. Ruth had the same dream a 3rd time, and this time she accepted the drink. Ruth Ann recounted the dreams to one of her daughters, saying that when she drank from the bowl, it gave her immortality. But she died shortly afterwards. The next year, Ruth Ann's daughter, Ella, hired a sculptor to cast a bronze statue commemorating the angel that had given her eternal life in her dream. The angel statue was unveiled in 1920. The French would later sculpt the marble statue of Abraham Lincoln for the Lincoln Memorial. But he was always said that the Black Angel was his greatest work. On an interesting side note, Abraham Lincoln once met with Greenville when Lincoln visited Council Bluffs in 1859. Decades after the statue's dedication, local residents began reporting strange occurrences around the cemetery. One local reported that the statue had actually left its pedestal and began flying around the grounds. The statue is also said to visit the fresh graves at night, perhaps welcoming the recent arrivals. There are those, however, who believe that she is to be far more evil. Some reported that they had seen children walk behind the base of the statue only to disappear and never be seen again. They also say if you look into her eyes at midnight, you will soon be dead. Some people weren't content with just retelling the stories of her supernatural tendencies. In 2009, the Black Angel needed $400 in restoration after vandals spray painted the bottom half red, as well as painting swastikas and die 666 on the retaining wall next to her. Through myths and vandalism, the Black Angel of Council Bluffs, Iowa, has kept her watch over Fairview Cemetery. To this day, she draws visitors from all over the world to see her beauty, uncover her mystery, or just to admire her historical significance. Stony Hollow Road. There's a small farm on the corner when you turn onto Stony Hollow Road. Locals claim that in the 1800s, a young woman named Lucinda was going to meet her fiancé along Stony Hollow Road. She waited, but he didn't come. Sadly, her fiancé was in a horse-drawn wagon, and his wagon wheel had been stuck in the mud on his way to her. So in desperation, Lucinda threw herself off of the cliffs that were along the road. Locals claim that people who go on buffs along Stony Hollow Road and say Lucinda's name 3 times will get to see her apparition standing along the edge of those 20 to 30 foot cliffs. Furthermore, people claim that if she drops a rose, that you only have 24 hours left to live. Some people have a modified version of this same story that they've offered in regards to Stony Hollow. In theirs, Lucinda was a white woman who fell in love with a black man. They couldn't be together, so she threw herself off of the cliff. Some say that she lived in that old farmhouse along the road. According to reports, this farmhouse had been abandoned with all the furnishings still inside. Locals report that the house has been left abandoned because it is cursed. Yet another tale states that Stony Hollow Road was somehow involved in the Underground Railroads. Some people even claim that if you're driving along the road around midnight, you can see the ghosts of slaves making their way along the road. Beggars Cemetery. American Indians of Iowa include numerous Native American tribes which have lived in the state of Iowa historically and prehistorically. A high number of both Indian and white graves in Beggars Cemetery. Indian activity is more often reported, though, maybe due to the desecration of the graves when they were moved. The spirit of Mrs. Henry Lott, the wife of a man who was known to cheat the Native Americans and steal their horses, is said to be one of the ghosts here. She was killed while trying to escape from angry Native Americans seeking revenge, although her husband survived. It's said that the grounds were once an ancient Indian burial site, but the bones were moved to make way for the white cemetery. Some say a little girl dances around the gravestones at night. From about 500 BC to about 1200 AD, the people who inhabited the region often laid their dead on a hilltop and piled dirt on top, thus creating a mound of dirt. When the early white settlers decided that the hilltop overlooking the river would be a nice place for a cemetery, they probably did not know enough about the history of the area to recognize that there was any significance to the 5 mounds of earth on the hilltop. Much later, in 1960, E.H. Hawbaker erected a monument in the cemetery to give recognition to the fact that the hilltop held special significance long before it became a white man's cemetery. Also, near the site of the cemetery is Spirit Lake. At this location, 2 white settlers killed an Indian chief and his family, including 4 young children. This incident became known as the Spirit Lake Massacre of 1857. Many woodland sites, including the mounds, are open to the public in Iowa. Many of these sites are considered sacred, and some contain burials. Visitors should behave respectfully as they would in any cemetery. I hope you ghouls enjoyed these Iowa urban legends. I feel like every state has like a devil's chair or like a lover's leap, like where someone like killed themselves or something. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. I like how with urban legends there could be like different types of the same legend that all kind of have like the same thing, but they're just a little bit different. Like the woman who jumped off, it was like, you know, her husband or her future husband didn't show up, so she killed herself. And then the one's like she couldn't be with the guy that she loved, so she killed herself. And the other one was that the slaves would like go through and stuff. I think that's interesting. There's people who study like urban legends and stuff, right? That must be really interesting. They must find like a lot of like different versions of the same story. I find it interesting. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. Since it's summer, the question of the day is, are you binge watching anything at the moment? Let me know what you're binge watching, because I need a new binge. Because I finished The Office. I'm going to finish watching iZombie because we didn't see any of season 3 because, you know, it wasn't on, it wasn't on Hulu, man. And that's where I watch it. And it wasn't on Hulu. I guess I lost the licensing for it. But they just put all 3 episodes on Netflix. Or all episodes of season 3 on Netflix. So that's what I'm doing. So let me know if you're binge watching something and what is it, where are you binge watching it, so I know where it is. And yeah, as always, ghouls, my last video will be on the top left. The next video will be on the bottom left. All my social medias are on the screen, as well as in the description box below. And remember, there's always someone or something watching you.